He's been a caretaker, federal minister. He's been a chief minister of Punjab. He is also the founder of the Friday Times and of Vanguard Books. So I think that his lists of attributes are incredible, but I will add, he formerly used to host the primetime current affairs show, Aapas Ki Baat on Geo News, and was briefly the president of Art Media, AAP Media Network, Indus News. So this is not an ordinary person, and the best thing I can say about Najam is I've known him for many years. I won't point out to his Marxist proclivities in analyzing, because he is one of the original progressive analysts in this country, not because they don't matter, but because he's become far wider than simply a Marxist thinker. So I think that, Najam, over to you and what you need to say about the present situation, about the government's imperatives as it confronts the present situation, what is necessary, what is needed further, and are we out on a new power adventure?
Thank you. Can you hear me at the back? Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity to give you my point of view on some of the issues that have been raised here, especially in relation to current events globally, in the region, and also in South Asia. So I'll be very brief because there's such a lot of ground to cover. So I'll just make very quick interventions in each area. As far as the notion of a unilateral or a singular world being replaced by a multinational or a multilateral world order is concerned, yes, we do see the beginnings and the stirrings of something like this, but it will take a long time before it comes to fruition. And therefore, to pin your hopes on multilateralism at this stage, in my view, is a little misplaced. No great transition takes place in world orders without violence, without wars, without bloodshed, and without the hegemons fighting tooth and nail to retain their positions. And so therefore, to expect that this process will be smooth or peaceful is not correct. We shouldn't be thinking along those lines. We should expect more turmoil, we should expect more wars, we should expect more contestations, and it will be a very difficult transition that is now beginning to shape up the world. But this transition, unfortunately, we are confronted with a man like Donald Trump at a time when this transition is taking place. And Donald Trump is not a man that you can predict with any degree of certainty. He's a man who can turn on friends and allies as easily as on enemies. And therefore, to pin any hope in terms of his many promises or his actions would be foolhardy. I mean, you can imagine what I'm suggesting here. The second thing is that what is happening in the Middle East is not going to find a solution quickly. All this euphoria about, well, the plan is about to start cracking, and the plan is going to work, and Donald Trump is going to get his Nobel Prize. Why? Because the hostages have been returned. The fact of the matter is, this is an Israeli plan, and this is exactly what Israel wanted, and this is exactly what Israel has got. And no amount of subterfuge is going to hide that fact. And Mr. Netanyahu has already made clear that he is a winner in all this. And therefore, for these Muslim nations, including Pakistan, to start crowing about the great prospects for peace, I think is misplaced. I think as soon as these hostages are, the mechanism is done, Israel will get back to its policy of annexation and war and genocide. And I think Donald Trump may well wash his hands of the whole thing once the hostages have been released. I don't see any possibility of America and these Muslim nations getting Israel to agree to anything substantial. And so therefore this conflict is not going to go away quickly. Moving further, talking about the Saudi-Pakistan Defense Pact, there's a lot of optimism pinned on it. As you can know, this pact is not going to be made public, not even to the Parliament of Pakistan. I dare say the outlines or the contours of this pact will not even be shared to the Defense Committee of the Cabinet. And the reason for that is obvious, as pointed out by someone here already, that ambiguity serves the interests of Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. But it's interesting that even our Parliament or select committees of the Parliament are not to be taken into confidence, which is to suggest that I personally don't think there's too much meat in this plan. It's a great signal, but in terms of concrete realities, what happens when India attacks Pakistan, or what happens when something like that happens, I don't think we're in a position to predict how far this defense agreement will work, apart from the usual, handouts, financial handouts and so on and so forth. But it's a great signal, and so therefore we shouldn't pin too many hopes on it, but it's a great signal. Moving further, Pakistan is confronted by a war on both its borders, on its eastern border and on its western border. And the initiative is not with us. On the one hand, it's with the Taliban, and both the Afghan and the Pakistani Taliban, and on the other hand, it's with India. India insists that its operation has only paused and that it will strike when it thinks the time is ripe. Similarly, the casualties on our side on the border with Afghanistan are rising, and I don't see the prospect of a quick victory on that front. So therefore, we are racked by conflict on both our borders. That's not a good sign for a country that wants to grow fast and to stabilize politically. Moving on, I think this great euphoria that we've built up about the great new alliance with the United States, I think is misplaced. You may have flattered Donald Trump. You may be giving him gifts of rare earth minerals. You may even be dangling a new port to American investors. I don't think this is going to go too far. We have too many issues, provincial and federal, right now within the country that are going to create difficulties all around. And these projects take 10, 15 years to come to fruition. And right now it's like we've heard so many times that we've struck oil and there's, heavens are, Pakistan is going to become a heaven on earth, and at the end of the day nothing happens. How many times have we heard promises like this from different political leaders in the past? And I think this is more or less along the same lines. Yes, there are great mineral deposits, but trust us to have screwed up Reko Diq and finally getting it moving now. And how long it will take before it gives us any dividends is another matter. The interesting thing is that Donald Trump may not be around by the time these projects come to fruition. And many of these things could turn around, become obstacles. So therefore, I am not very optimistic about huge foreign investments coming to Pakistan and bailing us out. The closest projections we have right now are from the IMF. We've been told again that we are now going to grow at 2.4% this next year. I mean, just think of it. The entire the entire development world says that we need to grow at 9–10% for at least 10 years in order to overcome our problems of poverty and self-sustainability. And here we are not even being able to overcome the population growth rate. And that's how bad things are. And all the promises that have been made from the SIFC, that so many MOUs have been signed and all my adult life I've been hearing about these MOUs that come and go with billions of dollars being committed, and nothing actually transpires on the ground. I have been looking at the status of foreign investment in this country. Foreign investment has departed the shores of the Karachi Stock Exchange, and there is no foreign investment coming to Pakistan. If at all there is, well, we'll wait and see what happens. My sense is that even Pakistani businessmen are not investing in this country. And they're trying to take their money out of this country. How come then, why would foreigners be interested in putting money in a country where your own business community is going to Dubai and Africa and elsewhere? So I'm so sorry, I have a slightly negative view of all the top promises that are being made. And finally, somebody said you need peace in the region. I don't see peace in the region. I see more conflict, I see more turmoil. Somebody said we need to have our house put in order. I don't see that happening. I don't see any initiative domestically where we are trying to put our house in order. In fact, if anything, things are getting worse. The most popular political party of the country is out of reckoning. And we have a situation where there is no mechanism to restore a degree of democracy and political stability that creates the right conditions for development. And all this talk about continuing in the current situation and prolonging it as long as possible is difficult to fathom, for the simple reason that this is a very unpredictable country. This is a country that is riven with all sorts of disputes. We see that every day, even within alliance partners and so on and so forth. And then we see the overhanging pressure from the ubiquitous establishment. So I think we are faced with a lot of problems. I think we should be more realistic than pretending to be very optimistic about the situation. I'm afraid what I'm saying a lot of people won't like. People like to talk about positive and optimistic things. My colleague here, Aisar Iqbal Saab, it's his job to present a rosy picture, and he works day and night to try and to make that rosy picture come true. But you know, just one question that I will leave hanging in the air for him, perhaps when there's a Q&A session, is what's happening to CPEC? That was supposed to be the flagship of economic development. And since the PTI government came to power, it came to a grinding halt. And now that this new government is in power, I still don't see any signs of a restoration of the impetus and the initiative of CPEC. Indeed, my Chinese sources tell me that there's still not clarity on what sort of security is to be provided to the Chinese. They're still sitting here not knowing how to move. They can't move in this country without armored vehicles, and they're still sitting there not knowing what to do. And the issue of the security for the Chinese has not yet been worked out. On the other hand, the Taliban are attacking the Chinese. The Indians are fueling this conflict with China. And now we've started talking about a port 100 miles from Gwadar that we think American investors should come in so that the minerals can be extracted. How do you think China is going to react to that? China is your so-called security expert. China is the one that is backing you all the way. And here you are floating these little tantalizing little things for Donald Trump about Pasni. I think it's a disaster. Just the mention of it, I would imagine the Chinese would be very, very upset. So my sense is that there is an attempt in this country to push things through without looking at all the consequences of where that may take us. But I think I've said enough to warrant some sort of response from people. Thank you.
That was the indomitable Mr. Najam Sethi. Ill fares the land to hastening ills, a prey where wealth accumulates and men decay. Princes and lords may flourish or may fade. A breath can make them as a breath has made, but a bold peasantry, their country's pride, when once destroyed, can never